Hey everybody, a little bit of a different show today. We're going to talk about low-tech aquariums. It's a topic that you'll see come up. You'll see people say, I run a low-tech, maybe planet tank, but I think in general, low technology usage is going to be good for so many hobbyists. I watch a lot of people fall behind in their care for their animals basically because of technology, when we strike out to buy technology to make it easier. Perhaps you buy a big canister filter, right? And it's got bells and whistles, and maybe it's got a built-in heater, and maybe it's got a pre-filter. So that would be an example of using lots of technology. And on the other end of that, maybe we're using something simple like a sponge filter where there's no moving parts. We use an air pump to inject some air, and then we move water, and bacteria lives there. So why do I think technology is holding most people back? Because they're spending time learning the technology instead of learning their animals, right? We see this probably in a lot of hobbies. I'm seeing it in my life right now. We buy like a dog carriage to carry our dogs around because when we go for too long of a walk, they get tired. There's been times where we're like, yeah, we got to put that together so we can go do it. And then by the time we get distracted, we end up not doing the walk at all. And a good example with like a planet tank, CO2 regulators. Injecting CO2 to speed up plants, most people can't wrap their heads around it. They're coming in from a perspective of someone told me adding CO2 makes plants better. That's like having your car going, well, someone said if I put an air intake kit, I get more horsepower. And so you do it, but you don't really understand it. And you're kind of just, okay, I guess it's better, right? And so now you're trying to find, well, which part do I buy? You might spend hours researching which regulator are you going to buy. Then you got to research what size tank am I going to use, right? And then you research, okay, well, what kind of diffuser am I going to do? And then you're like, oh, what about check valves? Do I do a normal air valve? Do I need a stainless steel one? The tubing. Do I have to use CO2 grade tubing? You'll get that thing going. Then the next day you'll come in and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it doesn't work. And you're out of CO2. What? How is it loose? You can run into problems where, there's too much CO2, not enough CO2. Oh my gosh, if I put too much CO2 in there won't be enough oxygen. Because you're chasing after this big technological thing, when in general, nature will kind of just get us there anyway. So plants most often will grow without a bunch of fancy equipment. But I've seen people that are really in tune with nature or really in tune with their aquarium be able to do things that plant requires CO2 injection. It requires high light. My sales pitch, well, actually I'm not selling anything, but my plea to you would be, if we had taken the time, research the CO2 system or the big filter or the light or whatever it is, and we pour that back into the animals. And when I'm saying animals, I'm talking about the fish, I'm talking about the inverts, I'm talking about the bacteria, I'm talking about the plants. If you were to learn more about the plant, I'll watch people agonize over which heater to buy, which filter to buy. And then I could be like, hey, what country does that plant come from? Oh, I don't know. What pH? Yeah, I don't know either. They might spend 3 hours learning about, a filter because it's got lots of video and it's flashy and it's, this thing does, it's got a Whizzly janger and it does it 20x the other one. Oh. Well, there we go. I didn't know I needed one of those, but I got 20x of it now. I love to observe nature. I do it every day. I've got a pond to do it. I've got aquariums to do it. That's why I set up aquariums. I set up little ecosystems and then watch what happens, even when it's bad. Oh no, that fish is fighting. Oh no, algae is happening. Oh no, I've got blue-green algae. What's going on there? Ooh, I got scum on top of the water. I want to figure all of that out and not always just go straight to a piece of equipment to make things harder. There are hobbyists, and I've been down this road, and saltwater leans a lot into this as well, where the equipment is the fun part. And in general, we have a society that's been built over the last, 50 years, basically, that is, when you buy something new and you add it to your thing, it gets better. Or at least it won't get worse. A lot of times we want to buy our way to success. And one of the ways to do that is buy more equipment, make it faster, make it easier, whatever it is that we need. But the reality is almost everything I might even be able to say everything could be done in a vacuum without using massive amounts of technology. It's been proven in the past with like Dr. Diana Wallstad and stuff like that, where aquariums were set up a long time and studies were run on them that basically weren't even, it was only using like window light, not even a light on the aquarium, no filtration at all. And really where I think we need to go as a hobby, and where you should go as a hobbyist, is what things are truly adding value to your experience. In your hobby right now, do you need that extra filter? And this is coming from a guy that drank all the Kool-Aid there was. I drank it all. Got into monster fish, got into African cichlids, got into breeding for profit, got into working at a store. I own a store. I own a warehouse full of tanks. I learned that you don't necessarily need all that stuff. There are times it warrants it, but not nearly as much as guys like me would be paying to advertise to you that you need more. Use what you have first. If you already have a hang-on back filter, just use that. Don't go buy a new one. Even if we were to launch one tomorrow, don't buy ours, just use yours. We have an auto feeder, for instance. Now, I am leaving next week for a couple of weeks, and I need auto feeders. But most don't. Yeah, we can grow fish a little bit faster. Yes, you might go on vacation for a weekend. If it's only a weekend, nature will take care of it. It'll sort itself out. If it's only a week, nature will sort itself out. You know, the time you spend on ordering one and setting it up, calibrating it, make sure it's got the right pellets and all of that, right, was probably better spent learning more about the inhabitants in there, learning more about that ecosystem. Maybe you would have realized, like, oh, fish usually just chew on almost anything in the wild. Like, look at that little bit of mulm. Oh, look, that tetra's feeding on snail poop. That snail's eating a decaying leaf. Like, they're not going to starve out in just a week. Now, if you have apex predators and there's no fish coming around, and they might get so uppity that they're going to work on each other. There's always going to be cases where low tech doesn't make sense because of this parameter. Nature is amazing. I assume you guys know that. And if you don't yet, you will if you're new to the hobby. There's so many weird things that nature will do. We can't really explain it. There's a lot of things in nature that we think we can explain, and yet we can't. Yeah, now that doesn't mean you should never buy anything, because we'll go out of business, right? But really think about, is this adding to your experience, and will it help you in a way you actually need? Or is this the latest flavor you don't have? Well, I haven't tried that yet, right? You can see from Dean and I, we have very different styles. He loves matte filters and sponge filters. I hate matte filters. I do love sponge filters, though. I just want to say, I do love high-tech stuff. I love tinkering, but I realize that tinkering oftentimes makes my hobby worse. My fish aren't less happy, but I'm less happy. I have less time, hands in the tank, removing algae, playing, learning, because it's like, oh, I'll take care of itself. It'll do it, right? And Dean's kind of the same way. It's a necessary evil if you travel all the time, kind of, but it's not better. We both acknowledge being in tune and like doing water changes yourself will get you a level closer to your fish that usually helps you spawn them, keep them happier, get their colors brighter, all of those things.
We hope you enjoyed this video. We actually picked another one that we thought you might like, so click on it right here.